Look at the wrist.
Alright, commonly asked questions in the DJ and stage lighting world. Are my devices cross-compatible? Absolutely. And we're going to get into that right away. Another question that's always asked. Is there a difference between DMX and XLR? Well, you goddamn right there is too. As I pan the camera over to the cat cable. For today's demonstration, we're going around the world, baby. We got some Orion here, Cyclops. We got an Orion Hypno Ray here and here. We got some American DJ, that's a quad phase. We got an ADJ Rave here and there. We're running 2 micro DJ viruses. Everything on the rack here is running off of a wireless DMX, which is pretty much an alien clone. We're running a Chin-Lee decoder, and we're running a Chauvet Stage Designer 50. Let's get compatible. All right, let's start with the cables here, get into that real quick. So what the heck is the difference between DMX and XLR? It's simple, it's the amount of data that you can transfer. XLR does not transfer nearly as much data as a DMX cable does. The same way that Ethernet cable transfers way more than both of these combined. Cat cable is the new standard. So if you're a DJ and you don't already know that, start stockpiling your cat cables, try to get 5 or higher. XLR, I believe, is rated for 45 to 70 impedance ohms, and DMX is rated 110 or more. So that's why when you're running a large light rack, and not something like this, I'm talking way bigger with way more channels and way more addresses, you run into problems when you're running XLR because XLR can't handle that load. If you've got 1 or 2 XLR hiding at the very end of the chain, you might get away with it because there's not a massive data load going through that particular cable. So in our instance here, I do in fact have one short little section of XLR run here. I'm not going to run into any problems with that. These 2 lights are both on the same channel. They're both doing the same thing, and it's a very short run of cable. Everything else here on this rack is running with the wireless receiver and transmitter. We're up top right now. This is where all of my lights from the exterior of the house feed in, which we're also controlling right now on the same light controller. So it's got the same wireless receiver and transmitter right here going into our Chin-Lee. You can see what all is actually doing anything right now on the Chin-Lee. So some of those are actually the LEDs on the inside of the garage down the bottom. They're actually the lower ones. The upper ones are the exterior ones, and I think there's only 4 bars running right now as I speak. I'll run outside and snap a photo right away here after I'm done filming this, and I'll insert it right here. And you can see how this board in fact has both of the standards. So there's the DMX in and out right there, and then there's our cat cables in and out. So in 1986, a bunch of eggheads created what is known as the DMX 512 standard. As long as your lighting and light fixtures and anything lighting that you're using is 512 standard, it will be compatible. The issues you're going to have more often than less is dip switches not working properly, cables that shouldn't be used where they're being used, and just not enough data being transferred, or faulty cables in general. Rule number 1 to setting up any light show, if you're using any kind of cables, is you need to have reliable cables, and you also need to make sure that they are in fact DMX if you need it to be DMX. As lighting displays got more and more elaborate, the amount of data being transferred through the XLR got to a maximum, and you needed to either buy expensive aftermarket parts back in the day or just upgrade to DMX cables and modern lighting. As lighting has gotten better, the LED revolution took over, so everything runs at relatively low power, especially the lasers, might I add. And as lighting systems got more elaborate in the way that the original DMX XLR eggheads figured, because they did, however, after all, have a 5-pin system that never really got to see any popularity as a result of no need for a 5-pin XLR style, because you had a 3-pin DMX style, and the DMX cable could still be used as a microphone or audio cable if you really needed it to. The cat cable came in because there was just too much demand for crazy light shows like what you're gonna see at the modern Tiesto. When it comes to troubleshooting your lighting systems, I've heard a lot of people on the internet say a lot of different things, but I highly recommend you first start with your wiring and with your receivers and transmitters. The reason I say that is if you start going to mess around with dip switches, thinking you messed up there, but you've already got messed up wiring or messed up transmitter and receiver signals, you're trying to fix a problem that can't be fixed and you're already in a crunch for time. Make sure that all of your cables are in good working order. Make sure that you know what your cables are, because you're going to need to know what cables are XLR and what cables are DMX. We've already discussed how they have a purpose and a place, but you need to know which one is which at the right time, and you need to make sure that they're working properly. Inspect your cables, make sure that nothing happened, make sure the roadies didn't do something silly, make sure all of your wireless receivers are actually sending a signal or receiving a signal. In setting your wireless transmitter and receivers, all the ones that I've seen are pretty simple, where you just tap a key and you set a color which represents the channel you want to run. So in our instance, the color we chose was green, but the transmitter itself flashes red like this when it's transmitting a signal. On the back end of our setup here, we want flashing greens all around. So flashing greens here means that we are getting a signal here. We're all ready to go here. Where's our greens? Green, green. Where's our green? Right there. Green, green. We are all set wireless. If you start messing around with dip switches when your wiring's faulty or your receivers aren't receiving properly, you're trying to fix a problem that can't be fixed. Let me give you a hypothetical situation. You've got a cable that's already messed up, and you've got a light that you're not familiar with, and somebody didn't take the time to write on this light that it's actually in the reverse polarity. So this particular light right here, I struggled with at first, trying to figure out why the heck I couldn't send this light a signal, why it wouldn't let me take control. Well, after a bunch of messing around, what we ended up realizing was that the dip switches were actually put in the reverse order. So what I wanted to be a low channel looks like it's actually a high channel, but it is in fact a low channel. And just to cross-reference that, let's go check our legend here, because anytime you're doing one of these, you need to have a legend. So that Hypno Ray 2 right there is set up for channels 28 through 34. Once you're sure all your wires and your transmitter and receiver are all in proper working order, then you can start troubleshooting your dip switches or your digital readouts, depending on what models you have. We're all over the map on this one too. These guys have digital readouts. You can see we're on channel 15 there. This guy's still got the dips. And then you also need to worry about your lights. If you've gone this far and all your dip switches seem to be in working order, you're probably now finding yourself in an instance where you still can't assign that light to a DMX signal. So in this instance right here, this particular Orion gives us a nice flashing blue light there when this light is receiving a nice DMX signal and it's ready to go to work. Do I have any other ones like that? right here, all you see. Okay, red light there on that one. Let's get a better view. DMX light there is red. It's ready to go. Same here. DMX is red and it's ready to go. And if you've made it this far, I insist that you revert back to your cables and double check your wires. Switch them out. Something might have broken in your setup. Something might not be right. Something might not have clicked into place correctly. Double check all of your analog dips to make sure that they're in the up and down position. You don't want any that got nudged, but they're not all the way up and down. They need to be all the way up or down. Double check them. Last tip for today I can leave you with is all your cable runs, keep them as short as possible. That's kind of just like a general rule of electronics. Keep all your cables as short as possible. Just the same as try not to cross them all up because everything interferes with everything. All right, I just booted everything up here. And like most lighting consoles, the very first thing you're gonna have to do is, you know what? Hit that switch right there, turn the blackout off. Now I know my viruses, they always like to be reset once we get going here. So I'm gonna look at my legend real quick here, and what's that say? 20 to 27. Now I know the virus itself likes to go on 20 and 21, so this should turn them off. All right, everything is reset now. Everything looks good. Once in a while, you're gonna have lights that like to do, they'll do their boot up mode and then they'll just stay on until you either hit the blackout or they have a built-in reset into their faders. So that's what I just did there with the viruses, was I eliminated their signal through their very first 2 channels. All right, so all my house lighting and garage lighting here is gonna take place for all of your pot lighting and your back lighting and your under lighting and all your glows and all your everything like that, your black lighting as well. So I believe the garage is this top row here for sure. Red, green, blue. You can see that's our number 1. Red, green, blue. It's number 2. This one is right up here. Red, green, blue. This one's over there. Red, green, blue. So there's the first 4 channels right there. I'm gonna do it like this. Here we go. American DJ Quad. There. How do you want this favorite color? So white. Okay. Slow strobing. There's not strobing. Okay, on to the next one. The Cyclops. Mr. Cyclops. Just a big moonflower. Full control of each section. full control over that light. Alright, on to the next one. The raves. Why that happens sometimes too is because people are running XLR when they should be running DMX. The light becomes erroneous. It gets into tweak mode. The pricks. I told them not to do it. Okay, on to the next one. What do we got here? The viruses. They work good. compatibility, no problems. Oh man, the blackout button was on the whole time.